Morning, everybody. Just sitting here, sipping my coffee. Just woke up not too long ago. And thought I would chat with you guys a little bit. But I like to wake up and kind of try to stay off of my phone as much as possible, because you can get a whole lot of good thoughts going in your brain in the early morning when everything's just kind of quiet. Now, I didn't get a whole lot of sleep last night, so I am pretty tired. As per usual on these weekend videos that I make. But I was thinking a little bit about, I don't know if you guys remember simulation hypothesis. And these are kind of some stuff that me and Baxter were talking about throughout the week. But simulation hypothesis seems to me like an atheist construction of theism in just a sort of sci-fi way. Where it's like there is no God, there's just a creator of the simulation, and that could be like anything. That doesn't really make sense. It just sounds like God to me. I probably don't understand simulation hypothesis, but I'm just a guy talking. But yeah, simulation hypothesis. It's likely that everything around us is like the Matrix. This is actually, what it really sounds like is the allegory of the cave to me. We live in the realm of shadows and appearance and imitation. I might actually have a drawing of the divided line in here somewhere. But somewhere else, that would be the bottom of the cave. We're tied to the wall. And all we know is the shadows. But somebody would have to come and break us free of our chains. Which kind of sounds like Jesus in a way. Also Socrates. That's what Socrates is trying to do, is release people from their chains and get them on their journey upwards out of the cave. So yeah, here's a divided line, everybody. Down at the bottom we got images, opinion, perceptions, stuff that we see all around us. And then we get a little higher, we get into stuff like mathematics, deductive systems of reasoning, where we come to the same answers, the same conclusions every time we do stuff like mathematics. 2 + 2 always equals 4. An even number is always a number divisible by 2 without a remainder. They're clear and defined ideas. Clear and distinct, excuse me, for those of you who know the Descartes reference that I'm making. And it makes sense that Descartes' a mathematician. He wants clear and distinct ideas. So, and we get to this through reason. And if we reason enough, we can get to understanding in the forms, the higher forms of, But I just think it's interesting that the simulation hypothesis, I don't know much about it. Everything I know about it is surface level, so there's probably going to be people that know about it and are going to be kind of like spazzing on me like, you don't understand the whole idea. It's okay, we're just talking here. Yeah, I don't understand it. So I'm going to build this straw man and tear it down for you. How about? The simulation is something that we are trapped in, apparently, that's built by somebody that we don't know about, that we've kind of invented based off of, and what it seems like is the percentage chance, it's actually a higher percentage that we live in a simulation. Where does this come from? I feel like I've heard this argument being made. Maybe that's not a real argument, but it seems like what a lot of people, all they need is that little bit of like, here's a number, here's a percentage. What really grabs people is graphs and pieces of paper that have numbers and like statistics on them to convince them of an idea, a rhetorical idea. Like, well, the studies, there's studies, so therefore what I say is true. There's studies about it. Obviously people who are more intellectually honest and really want to find out, they don't want to be down in the realm of opinions. They're not going to be satisfied with that. They're going to have to do the reasoning, do the math themselves, but they'll be stuck down here in imagination, lower on the divided line, in the realm of opinions. So but it just seems like like somebody, you guys remember in America the Never Trumpers? I've actually become a Never Trumper myself. No, not really. I'm a never any politician, actually. I think the things that attracted me to Trump was just that he was so in your face, and like in 2016, everything had gotten so, it was just the right place and right time for Trump to become listened to and accepted, and he was funny, and so that in my like, shoot, what would I have been? I was like 14. 14 or 15. So a 15-year-old really liked Trump and his rants and going off, and he was a beast, he was savage, But there's plenty of like Never Trumpers where like on the Republican side of things, they would just never vote for Trump regardless of what he says or does. It seems like the simulation theory people are the theist equivalent of Never Trumpers, where they'll just come up with anything to not believe in. Whoa. Spraybird. Those guys are nuts. I don't know if you guys have ever seen those guys. The crop dusters. Go swoop down in fields like super low, almost hitting telephone lines. That's a crazy job. That would be fun. But yeah, simulation theory seems like the Never Trumper of simulation hypothesis enjoyers seem like people that want theism without God. I don't even know if that makes that doesn't even make sense. Theism without God, that's an oxymoron. But yeah, I don't know. I've gone through so many things where, like, I've doubted any kind of, like, so many different things that at this point I feel like Descartes, where I've doubted everything, and now I can sort of choose what I like more. Not that I understand all these things. It's like there are certain things that I'm pulled to more than others, but the scientific materialists seem to think that they have grounds to explain everything. The theists think that they have grounds to explain everything. Everybody's trying to explain everything, and then for me, it's nice to formulate my own beliefs based off of obviously kind of what grabs you. There's some things that you can't help but be convinced by, and I don't know if that's a choice, really. I don't know if you just choose to actually fully believe in something. You can choose to align with things, I think. That's a tricky subject, but there's always going to be some kind of unknown. Like particle physics, this is something I heard, that quantum particles blink in and out of existence like 60 million times a second or something like that. Which, first of all, how do we know that that's true? How is somebody going to, like, how is that true? How? How do people know this? See, this is where, to get up from here to here, I would have to figure it out myself. But I don't have time for that. So we're going to remain down here for this conversation. But how is somebody figuring out that quantum particles, which is something, oh wow, look at this. Hold on. There's a caterpillar on my foot. It's a nice little fella. Oh! Sorry about that. Didn't mean to kick you. So some quantum mechanic, he got dressed up in his mechanic suit to go study quanta. Quantum particles. And I don't know how any of this works. I'm gonna come up with an imaginative description of this, where they're studying these things that are they're the smallest unit that we can know about, essentially, so far as I understand. And he counts somehow. Oh, see, it appears and disappears 60 million times in a second. How do you track that? Did the computer tell you about it? The computer? Well, you see, the computer tells him. You see, the computer did the math and told him that this particle that is so ridiculously small that it's the smallest thing we can perceive at this point. We can't even perceive it. It's so small we can't even perceive it, but we know it's there somehow. blinks in and out of existence 60 million times in a second. Now my question is, if that is the atom, right, in the Greek sense of the word, the non-cuttable, you cannot divide it up anymore, which is probably not true. We just don't know how to get any smaller than that. Where is it going when it disappears? Also, why does it do that? Also, why is it acting differently when it's observed? I'm IQ bracketed out of this conversation. I'm not smart enough to be talking about this, so just take everything that I'm talking about with a grain of salt. But like I say, we're down here in the realm of opinions. But who chooses, what chooses the placement of the particle? Where does that come from? And if that's down to the smallest base level of our reality, how does that work? Is there some sort of organizing faculty? Is there some sort of prime cause doing that? I think so. That's what my inclination is, because I believe in God. But I think I believe in God. And this is part of my thinking. That seems like any time I talk about God, there's somebody that's going to comment in the comments section how I'm an idiot for that. That's okay. But see, the material explanations for things is like so many. I understand when people say that it's also a faith or a belief when you believe what scientists tell you, because what are you gonna go get in your quantum mechanics suit and go test the quantum particle mechanics? You, the person that believes that God's not real and science is the ultimate way of finding out about the universe. Now, I'm not saying that science is just a false god, and no. I think that people that sort of settle down on science and the materialistic explanations for everything and think that that's a satisfactory answer to the grandiose nature of the universe. I think it's unsatisfactory. I think that it's unsatisfactory for me because at a certain point you can't do all the study, you can't test all these things for yourself. You're going back to believing something, somebody, somewhere. Who has the time to find out for themselves every single one of these points? You're gonna trust an expert at a certain point and trust that their information is correct and trust that their information won't change, which it does all the time. That's the nature of the scientific method, is not that we're trying to find solid, objective, deductive truths. It's a inductive system of reasoning where it allows for the possibility or the reality that, things will surprise you sometimes. But man, simulation theory, it's a fun sci-fi explanation and reminds me a little bit of so within the simulation theory, I guess it would be, so there's a simulation that we're all in, and there's like thought patterns that get programmed in or like thrown in. That's sort of like the Hegelian Geist in a way, and God is one of them, one of the sort of ideas that's there, that's been programmed in. Kind of like in Dune, where the Bene Gesserit seed religious ideas on different planets. Like they seed the Messiah which would be Paul, and they create prophecies. It's a really interesting and kind of fun idea. But then, so if God is, the idea of God is a programmed in idea or belief from the programmers, then why aren't the programmers just God? It's just, there you go, there's God. And so another aspect of the simulation thing, if it's all simulated and we are conscious, we have consciousness, do we have our bodies an avatar that's sort of interacting within this virtual reality? And so is it like the Matrix, where their avatar is in the simulation, but then their real, who they really are, is outside of it? And if that's the case, is there another universe that is real, more real than this realm of appearance, in which we do have some sort of physical body? Or if not, is our consciousness something else? And how are we not inventing the soul? It sounds like the soul. Where does consciousness come from? Because then it's just like, yeah, then you go on like infinite. It's a simulation within a simulation within a simulation, and then you just keep going and going and going, and it's just an infinite, until you have to find the prime cause again. You have to find the prime reality, but you could theoretically go through infinite simulations to get to that. So it doesn't say anything about it. It really goes nowhere, it seems like. Now I understand that it's probably, this whole simulation stuff is probably not like meant to be taken seriously, but it's fun. It's kind of a fun little mind game, or a fun little thing to think about sometimes. And it makes me wonder, say it were a simulation, all this is kind of fake stuff that gets made up, what the real reality is like outside of the cave. Because you have to imagine that the things outside the cave they're the real things, but they're still, the things that the cave dwellers are looking at are imitations of the real things. So I guess what I'm getting at is it possible to invent so many strange things that we have here on Earth, so many in the universe? There's so many strange, weird things that, is it possible to just formulate these ideas out of thin air? Where does that stuff come from? So is it that there's a reality outside of this cave that we're in, being the simulation, that are more real but just different, or not different but more than what we have here, like the realm of the forms, the true things? And how do we find out about that stuff? Man, I love Plato so much. Ugh. Somebody was asking me about money in the comments on my last video. Was asking me how I think about money and that kind of thing. And honestly, I don't really think about money that much, other than just paying my bills. And when I was living at home and working full time, I felt like super rich because you don't have any bills and you're working full time, so money just tends to pile up, kind of. Now I think, and so I would buy like you know, expensive stuff, watches, all kinds of things. Now I can't do that, but I think I've come to a level of being happy with the stuff that I have, that, you know, I still have the urge every once in a while, like I really want to, I don't know why, like something will come up and bite me, where it's like, oh man, I really want a Omega Speedmaster Mark II. For some reason, that watch, it has such an interesting and weird case design, case shape, where it's like an integrated bracelet. It's goofy, and I kind of like weird, goofy models of watches. Like my 6105, it's got just such a weird case shape, asymmetrical, and it's just an odd looking watch, and I'm into that kind of thing. For whatever reason, that grabs me. But yeah, stuff will grab me like that, where it's like, oh, I really want this thing. But then it kind of I'm able to like be responsible and not go for it. But the money thing, because I was talking about purpose in life and stuff like that with in one of my videos and with Baxter, and I think that money, maybe I should think about money as being more important, where like, you know, you're gonna be so insecure if you don't have enough money in your savings, and you don't have a 401k and a retirement plan. Pretty easy for me to not think about any of that right now when I'm 23. Maybe when I have kids, or you know, when I have a family, I will have to think about money more. I don't really have to think about money, and that's exactly where I want to be, because the less I think about it, the less I stress about it, and the more I look into it, the more it's just like, oh, it's a sinking ship, you know. It's all your money, your dollar is worth less every day, and you know, America is going down, so we better buy Bitcoin. Americans are such Greculi at this point. We've been Greculi for a long time, but for those of you who know what that means, when the Romans discovered the Greeks, they discovered the Greeks' culture after they had completely mollywopped them in battle, and then instead of demeaning them and sort of just enslaving them, they did that, but they looked at their architecture, their culture, their mythos, and they were just like, this is just incredible. These people are geniuses. You know, the Romans are far more industrial than the Greeks. The Greeks are extremely cultural, and you know, they were industrial. The Athenian Greeks were kind of starting up that empire thing, not fully, but close. They were getting close, and that's when the Peloponnesian War happens between Sparta and Athens, because they're kind of getting all these states to pay tribute to them, all that kind of thing, but nowhere near the Roman Empire. And then Alexander, you know, he starts creating that too, but all those guys are gone by the time the Romans come in, and they see that these Greeks are just a shadow, like, of what their great grandfathers were, and they say that they're Greculi, which means little Greeks. So that's how I think the United States is at this point, and which makes me wonder, if that's what we are, then who's the Romans to us? And I was wondering if it might be somebody like China, or some, you know, like, what's the next rising, who's going to be the next big dog? And of course there's the Thucydides trap between, you know, United States and China, but I know nothing about geopolitics, so I'm not qualified to talk about it. But I was thinking about that, like, if America really is going down, you know, we've almost hit that, 260 something year mark where empires collapse. if America goes down, what's next? Now, this is going to sound really interesting because I know that a lot of people that are not, people from all over the world are watching this. I would be curious to hear what your guys' perspective is on that. But in my opinion, after 1945, the United States became an empire. And because there were no other competitors besides Russia, pretty much. All of Europe was in shambles at that point. But what comes next? And will it be an immediate collapse? I don't think so. I think it'll be a slow drain, slow downfall, and it has been. But, the dollar's worth less every day. Everything's going to hell. So what's really important is that you obsess and really make your life all about getting enough money to be safe when the ship goes down. I just can't think like that. And I've never been that sort of personality where it's like I really feel like I need to become wealthy and have a really nice house, really nice, all the really good stuff with a super like I was never super career focused where my career is everything. That's your purpose in life, is your career. I would never really went down that path. It reminds me of this Yeats poem, "Toil and grow rich, what's that but to lie with a foul witch, and after drain dry, to lie," oh wait. Oh my God. Let me start over. "Toil and grow rich, what's that but to lie with a foul witch, and after drain dry, to be brought to the chamber where lies one long sought with despair." It's against materialism, obviously, and this sort of where money and wealth is your main purpose in life. Once you get it, you might find out that that's not all that. I'm in a nice position to look at that from a distance and be like, that's a bunch of BS, just purely because I'm bracketed out of it. I'm a lowly carpenter. If I were a carpenter and you were a lady, would you marry me anyway? Would you have my baby? Forget your lust, a rich man's gold. All that you need is in your soul. Now listen to me and what I say, 'cause it'll help you. Oh, it'll help you one sunny day. And be a simple kind of man. Be a something you'll love and understand. So that's basically what I think about that. But, in a couple of years I could be living in a ditch somewhere. But I'm actually okay with that. I really think I am. I'll be like, alright, it's time to be in the ditch. It's trench time. It's time to live in a trench eating stale bread. But yeah, everything is so connected with money. It seems like like I understand why. I understand why. It's just some people got that dog in them where they're like, by this time, this is something me and Baxter were talking about, by this time in my life, because we're young men, and Baxter went to college, and he's been around a whole lot of young men like himself, and it's very interesting to experience how so many different people think about their life and what life is about and what they want to do. Some people, it's like they have a clear list or a boxes that they want to check off. Like, by this time I want my my Porsche GT, whatever. I want this type of house. I want to be living here. I want to be working in this type of job, making this type of money, with this type of wife and this type of kid. And they have like tracked out their whole existence. I never had anything like that. I still don't. I'm pretty much just I'm pretty much like Odysseus in book 5 when he builds the raft and he's just kind of on the sea, and he's got like the starter pack. He's got some wine, he's got some meats that Calypso packaged up for him, and he's on the seas. But then Poseidon sometimes he'll come in and he's just like, oh, there's that guy, F him. And then he's like, oh crap, I gotta go swim. Like, I really don't want to swim. But then, you know, you got nymphs that come and help you out sometimes. Little, you know, because Zeus's will is fate. Whatever Zeus wants is what's going to happen. But everything, you know, God, whatever God wills is that's the path for your life. But there's plenty of things in between that you can mess up, and plenty of things that Poseidon can come and mess up. Poseidon being nature and just the chaoticness of the chaos of the world was just going to throw stuff in your way. But then you get little helpers, like Ino, how would you say that? Ino, the white goddess comes and throws Odysseus the raft, not the raft, but like a life jacket, essentially. Her cloak is like, you're not going to drown, just keep swimming, this is going to suck, keep swimming. But man, this video is getting long. Try to realize when a nymph is throwing you a cloak that's gonna keep you from drowning, even though it may seem like it, but you got to keep swimming. Okay, see you later.